你知道世界上最昂贵的奢侈品是什么吗？
Do you know what the most expensive luxury in the world is?
It's not a priceless heirloom, it's not a luxury car or a mansion, it's just a small Chinese passport. A passport that promises access to the safest places in the world. A Chinese passport might not take you anywhere you want to go, but it can bring you back to China from anywhere. That's the message often sent in propaganda videos circulating in China. These videos regularly rack up millions of views and stir strong emotions among many viewers. But does this reflect reality? Recently, a Chinese woman posted a video describing her terrifying 7-day trip to Russia. I thought China and Russia were supposed to be friendly, but in the eyes of Russians, we're just easy targets, people with money to burn, who don't fight back. On my first day, I took a taxi, and when I got out, the driver demanded extra money. When I refused, he actually threatened to throw my suitcase away. I left some shopping bags on the floor of my hotel room, and the cleaning lady stole them. Can you believe that? We were staying at a hotel that cost me more than 3,000 yuan a night. When we asked for clean sheets, they said it would cost 5,000 rubles. That's 400 yuan. Why don't they just rob us at that point? They really treated us like we were clueless. Another Chinese student studying in Russia shared that he thinks the country is desperate for money. He explained that a friend shipped 500 down jackets to Russia, but custom officers claimed the jackets were filled with material used for bulletproof vests. The shipment was held for over 20 days, and the friend had to pay more than 8,000 yuan in storage fees to get it released. When the jackets were finally returned, their labels were torn apart. The student said, doing business in Russia these days is more chilling than Siberian weather, adding, there's no such thing as a brotherhood here. A Chinese YouTuber who frequently passes through Tanzania airports shared a similar experience.
I've noticed that Chinese passport holders get special treatment at customs. On one flight I was on, there were 5 baggage inspection tables. 3 of them were dedicated to checking luggage from Chinese passengers. I filmed the whole thing for an afternoon and didn't see a single Western passenger asked to open their bags.
After the inspection, one of the Chinese travelers said,
You just pay the fee, 200,000 Tanzanian shillings. What else can you do? It seems like they don't check passengers from India, Pakistan, or Western countries. They only target Chinese travelers.
Many experienced Chinese travelers have echoed similar concerns. They say traveling abroad with a Chinese passport is far different from the confident portrayal seen in the movies Wolf Warrior. Instead of feeling empowered, they often find themselves singled out for extra scrutiny and face significant challenges during their travels.
When I'm abroad, I usually avoid mentioning that I'm Chinese. I've realized that the tough, patriotic attitude you see in Chinese movies doesn't work overseas. For example, when I was in Bali trying to extend my visa, they charged me a few hundred yuan more just because I had a Chinese passport. I asked why, and they said they didn't know. No explanation. Showing a Chinese passport in some countries is like waving a sign that says, "Ask me for a bribe." If you don't pay, they lock you in a little room until you give in.
He didn't want any trouble, so he posted a video claiming he was Afghan, but soon after, he was bombarded with insults from the Little Pinks, internet nickname for Chinese nationalist, who cyber-attacked him and his family. Some online commenter pointed out that Chinese travelers often receive special attention from custom officers because of the behavior of certain individuals who break the rules, encouraging custom officials to stay on high alert. For example, a Chinese man recently tried to bribe custom officials while entering Indonesia. Before going through inspection, he stuffed 500,000 Indian rupiah into his passport and handed it to the custom officer. After getting through customs without issue, he proudly posted the video online, calling it a great Chinese tradition. The video sparked widespread debate in Indonesia. The country's Minister of Immigration and Corrections later announced that the man would be deported and banned from re-entering Indonesia. Incidents like these have prompted some Taiwanese travelers to make their nationality more visible. Recently, a Taiwanese traveler shared a post on Threads about sticking a label on their suitcase that said, "I'm Taiwanese, not Chinese." The post went viral in Japan, with photos of the label receiving over 6 million views and more than 120,000 likes. The traveler said they had witnessed Taiwanese people being mistaken for Chinese abroad and being treated unfairly as a result. During a trip to Fukuoka, Japanese airport staff even complimented the sticker. In the comment section, many Japanese users expressed support, with one suggesting it would look even better with a Winnie the Pooh sticker attached. Another person wrote, "I want to add a sticker saying I'm Japanese, not Chinese when I travel abroad." South Korean media outlets also picked up the story, saying they understood the desire to avoid being mistaken for Chinese travelers. They pointed out that some Chinese nationals have pretended to be Korean in the past. In one case, 3 Chinese men tried to enter Australia using fake South Korean passports. Custom officers quickly became suspicious when they realized the men couldn't speak Korean. After being questioned, the men admitted they each paid 20,000 yuan to get counterfeit South Korean passport in hopes of finding work in Australia. All 3 were deported, and Australian immigration officials issued a lifetime entry ban. China has a population of 1.4 billion people, but only 200 million hold passports. That means a large portion of the population has never traveled abroad or experienced how Chinese passports are perceived internationally. As a result, many people believe the narrative they see online about the strength and prestige of a Chinese passport. But when they finally travel abroad and encounter reality, the disappointment hits hard.
Has China still not earned respect on the global stage? Today, on my flight back home, I face unfair treatment at the airport. People with certain passports can just swipe through immigration without any hassle, like Canadian, Australian, or New Zealand passports. I can understand that. I can even accept Japan and South Korea getting that treatment. But then I saw Taiwan was on that list. What's going on here? As a patriotic overseas Chinese citizen, I urge the authorities to investigate and punish whoever is responsible for this mistake.
Taiwan is an issue that often leaves Chinese passport holders embarrassed. Many travelers don't realize until they go abroad that their passport isn't as powerful as the political propaganda suggests. In fact, it's the only passport in the world that requires a visa to visit what it claims as part of its own country. Some Chinese nationalists have responded defiantly, saying, "Taiwan is part of our country. I can go there wherever I want. Who's going to stop me?" In one video, a man from mainland China tries to enter Taiwan using a Chinese passport. When Taiwanese customs officers stop him, he becomes agitated and starts shouting,
"Are my documents not in order today? I'm telling you, who dares to stop me? You're wasting my time, aren't you? You're discriminating against me, aren't you?"
Another person shared a story that left many both amused and frustrated. The woman's foreign colleagues were planning a trip to Hong Kong. When they checked the visa requirements, they were surprised by what they found. Americans can enter Hong Kong without a visa for 90 days. Indian passport holders get 30 days, and even Russian citizens can stay up to 14 days without a visa. But with her Chinese passport, she needed to apply for a Hong Kong and Macau travel permit at least 2 weeks in advance, and it only allowed a 7-day stay. Her foreign colleagues were shocked. One of them couldn't help asking, "Wait, isn't Hong Kong supposed to be part of China?" The head of the China Tourism Academy, Dai Bing, once said, "China has signed multi-visa exemption agreements with 150 countries. The Chinese passport is becoming more valuable, and there are more and more places where you can go without much planning." But according to Visa Guide World, which recently published its 2025 Passport Index, China ranks far lower than many might expect. Among 199 countries, Singapore took the top spot again, followed by Finland and Spain. Japan ranked 4th. Taiwan came in 69th with access to 100 visa-free destinations. Meanwhile, China slipped to 115th place, failing to make the top 100. Some online commentators pointed out that China's claim of 150 visa-free agreements primarily applies to diplomatic and official passports, not to regular tourist passports. One commenter compared the situation, noting that Taiwan passport holders can travel visa-free to 150 countries, while Japanese passport holders have access to 190 countries without a visa. The commenter added that these passports allow travelers to visit countries across Europe, Asia, Africa, and beyond. In contrast, passports from the People's Republic of China provides visa-free access to countries such as North Korea, Iran, Afghanistan, Somalia, and Syria. The commentator described traveling to these destinations as more of an adventure than a typical tourism experience, given the higher risk associated with these regions. Another commenter jokes, "Other passport promises to take you around the world. The Chinese passport only promises to bring you home. Honestly, it only works smoothly when you're returning to China." Unfortunately, even within China, passport holders still sometimes face unexpected obstacles. A Chinese content creator named Wei Xiaowei recently shared her experience in a video on Douyin Chinese version of TikTok. She and her friend had booked tickets to Qatar to watch the World Cup, with all flights and hotel reservations confirmed. However, during the security check at a Chinese airport, she was told that her passport had been cancelled by the authorities in her hometown. The staff then cut her passport on the spot. When she contacted her local public security bureau to ask why, they told her that passport cancellations were part of a cleanup effort to prevent scams. They said they were worried that she might have fallen victim to a scam while abroad. In the video, she tearfully said she had never experienced anything like this and now had no way to travel anywhere. Another travel blogger named Yue Yue had a similar experience. After 4 years of traveling around the world, she returned to China excited to be home, but on her first day back, her passport was confiscated and declared invalid. What a long, exhausting day. It was my first time coming back to China for 4 years, and they confiscated my passport. Can you imagine that? I was going through customs where they announced that my passport had been invalidated. I asked why, and they said they didn't know. Apparently, the immigration office in my hometown made the decision. Many Chinese travelers are confused by the difficulties and obstacles they encounter when going through customs overseas. They wonder, if China is strong, why do its citizens still face so many challenges when traveling overseas? Some analysts suggest this is linked to Beijing's foreign aid policies, particularly in Africa, where large sums have been provided in exchange for political support. This approach has created the perception of some government and local communities that Chinese travelers are wealthy and easy to exploit. Even Li Yi, a commentator often seen as a strong supporter of the Chinese Communist Party, recently expressed frustration. He criticized the government's financial giveaways, calling it humiliating and disgraceful. He pointed out that for 72 years, Beijing has failed to unify Taiwan but continues to spend hundreds of billions of yuan annually to persuade other countries to acknowledge Taiwan as part of China. Some Chinese citizens have also questioned whether the country's growing strength has improved everyday life. While China has seen rapid economic growth, military advancements, and increased global influence, they argue that these achievements often feel disconnected from the realities of ordinary people. As one commenter put it, the country's strength sometimes feels like an illusion, visually impressive but irrelevant when real problems arise. In one video, a man said that he had lost his passport while traveling and became stuck in an airport in Malaysia. He explained that he had called the Chinese embassy many times without success. Eventually, he recorded a video message, hoping embassy staff might see it and respond. In another case, a man reported being scammed in Belarus. He said local police, under the pretense of assisting with the investigation, confiscated $40,000 from him and verbally abused him. Despite repeated calls and 70 emails to the Chinese embassy, the response was simply to be patient. More than a year later, there had been no progress, and the funds remained unreturned. Some observers had noted that many Chinese travelers lack awareness of their legal rights. Another issue is that many Chinese travelers have little awareness of how to protect their rights. When facing unfair treatment abroad, they often choose not to defend themselves. In some developing countries, Chinese tourists are frequently targeted at airports, border checkpoints, and even by local police. Even when no rules are broken, they are sometimes forced to pay bribes, face unnecessary delays, or are threatened with denied entry. Analysts suggest that this pattern persists because many Chinese travelers are unfamiliar with legal protections. When problems arise, the common response is to pay a small fee to avoid trouble. Over time, this has created a habit among some officials of singling out Chinese travelers, viewing them as easy targets who are unlikely to argue, file complaints, or seek legal assistance. This passive approach is often linked to domestic social norms in China, where legal systems and regulations are sometimes seen as less important than personal connection and financial incentives. Ultimately, analysts argue that a nation's strength does not necessarily translate into better conditions for ordinary people. Economic growth and international influence have not prevented rising unemployment or increasing cost of living in China. They also point to the impact of China's assertive diplomatic style, often described as wolf warrior diplomacy. While this approach has fueled nationalist sentiment domestically, it has also led to increased suspicion towards Chinese travelers in many countries. In response, some governments have imposed stricter visa requirements and more stringent custom checks. As the country's international reputation faces growing challenges, everyday citizens are often the first to feel the impact. Observers highlight that domestic challenges undermine perceptions of national strength. While China asserts itself globally, some argue that prioritizing external power and foreign aid over citizens' rights and well-being creates a hollow sense of growth. This raises questions about the true value of national strength without internal dignity and freedom.